Is consciousness the source of the entire universe? Could it be that the universe is one big consciousness, or even God's consciousness, or one big mind? In this episode, we shall talk about the enigma of consciousness and we'll try to answer the question: is the universe mental? Not only according to modern science such as quantum physics, but also to the ancient texts and records. My name is Alexander. In this episode, we shall talk about consciousness. So, we experience consciousness every day, but consciousness is one of the biggest problems to the modern science because, as it is so simple to add that we are conscious, so in modern science it is very hard and difficult to explain how consciousness arises. And according to the materialistic dogma, materialism is the scientific notion, and it is actually a belief because we do not have any evidence that it is the ultimate truth. And materialism is about that there only exist those things that are material, so only matter exists, and only matter and the forces of physical interaction, etc. So nothing except for matter and known forces, for example of gravity, electromagnetism, etc. do not exist. So things such as, let's say, auras, souls, God, and everything like that do not exist. And according to the materialist paradigm, all of the universe, entire universe, is just a random coincidence. So there were so many probabilities that in one case, completely random, which is almost improbable to happen, the universe began, and we know the Big Bang, that everything happened in the Big Bang. So it can be metaphorically compared like there is a bomb and this bomb explodes. So the Big Bang explodes, and from some ashes and from some particles of this explosion, the whole solar system starts to emerge, and the planets start to revolve around the suns. And on this planet, for instance, on our planet, conscious creatures appear, and this explosion is still happening. So as we see, this materialism paradigm and this explanation is, maybe it is to some extent logical, but it is not only improbable, which is proved by statistics, but also it is actually, I don't buy it. Yes, and as we see, it is impressive, right? So this is the materialism paradigm, but there is actually an alternative which is called the idealism, and the idealism is connected with the mystical philosophy, and it can be traced back, for instance, to Plato, who thought that this world, when we live in this material world, is an ideal world of the material things, and every material thing, every material object has its idea, so let's say its information in the realms above, sometimes called heavens. And in heavens there are those ideal forms which only manifest physically here on earth, but here this earth is just an illusion and it is not ideal, whereas this heaven, this ideal world of forms of consciousness, of thought, is ideal. So that's why you can have a perfect thought about some, let's say, invention, but when you build it, it is not that perfect. So we can compare it to that. And according to the idealist philosophy, everything is one great consciousness, everything is one great mind, and this can be compared to the, for example, God, that the God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and that the God is all. The God is not only the source, but the God is also the creation. So this idealist philosophy states that all is consciousness, all is mind, and that everything material, all of the universe is just the byproduct of the source, and the source is consciousness. And this is also connected with the mystical experiences, because many mystical experiences of mystics throughout the ages were based on the feeling of the experience that everything is interconnected, that this material reality is to some extent an illusion. In the Hindu thought it was called Maya, and that everything is one. All is one, and all is one, let's say God, consciousness, whatever. All is one, all is source. And it is very interesting because because modern science cannot tell us what consciousness is, and it cannot tell us how it emerged. And of course, according to materialism paradigm, the consciousness is the byproduct of the brain. So the brains evolved to such an extent, for example in humans, that we become conscious, or some higher animals also, primates for instance, have so sophisticated brain and chemistry that they become conscious. But actually, for instance, near-death experiences, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, and any other phenomena of such kind are proving the case to be different, that our consciousness is beyond our physical body, and that our consciousness is actually maybe eternal, and maybe it's not only limited to one person, but maybe it is interconnected. And for instance, Dr. Michael Newton was making a regression of patients to past lives during hypnosis, and they were telling that we are the souls incarnated here, and that everything is interconnected, and that everything is one big consciousness. So let's maybe focus now on the quantum physics, because quantum physics, and especially some of the interpretations of quantum physics, especially the Copenhagen interpretation, which was interestingly created by fathers of quantum physics such as Heisenberg and Bohr, and the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics states that the act of observations influence the real world. And it is, I think, the easiest way to describe is to just go like this. Here is the reality, the external reality that we observe. So we've got observation. I observe this reality, and it happens to be material, right? It happens to be, for example, my hand, like in this case. And let's say I'm the observer, only one. There are no other observers. So I go back, and there is no hand. There is only probability of this hand being real, and it's not material in every sense. So it is also like close the eyes, and the screen on which you're seeing me is now, when you close this and you are not observing, so this screen is just a probability wave. And there could be a screen, there could be no screen, there could be something different, there could be someone else talking, and everything. The probability wave is the potential, is the probability of every potential that can happen. And according to some interpretations, for instance this Copenhagen interpretation, the act of observation influences the outcome and influences the material reality and what appears in front of us in the real material world. There are many controversies about this Copenhagen interpretations, but according to many physicists, for example Wheeler, the act of observation influences the outcome and influences the system. And without any observer, our universe would be just a probability wave. So there could be a universe, there could not be a universe, there could be nothing, there could be everything, there could be this type of universe, there could be this, there could be humans, there could be aliens, everything. So the act of observation influences our reality, and it is very interesting because, as we see, how could our universe even emerge without any observers? So if we put observers first, so let's say that at first everything was consciousness. I will mention later the cosmology and cosmogony of many other ancient ancestor texts in which there is a mention of God being consciousness and creating the universe. But let's hypothetically put that at the beginning was just consciousness. It was God, we can say that it was God. It was everything, just consciousness. And this consciousness created the material reality. And because of that, it expanded, it created this Big Bang. And because of its division, which is very interesting and about which I will talk in my other video, that there is a physical phenomenon of division of consciousness which is very applicable in this scenario, and that when it divided, the God's consciousness could illusionary divide itself to actually experience this world that it just created, right? God created the universe, and it could just, let's say, divide itself into, for instance, souls or other observers in this universe to experience it. And this is very in accordance with many New Age concepts that we are the parts of the God, we are the children of the God, and we are just here to experience. It's very interesting. But in this scenario, we've got no problem of this improbable Big Bang to happen, because just consciousness wanted that to happen, so it happened. From this probability wave of infinite possibilities, it just happened. So that's why there is such a small probability for Big Bang to occur, because consciousness just observes what it wants, right? So that's, for instance, how, for example, cities, these yogic superpowers about which I was talking in my other video, can be possible. That, for example, yogis could materialize things because what observer observes, it just happens, it just materializes. This is also connected to the law of attraction manifestation. But when it comes to cosmology and cosmogeny, it was in ancient Greece very known, and this concept was very well known, not only in the works of Plato, but also in works of other Greek philosophers such as Anaxagoras. And also it is in accordance with the Hindu thought, in which everything is Brahman. Brahman, which is very often spelled as consciousness, which is often translated as consciousness, was at the beginning, and actually everything is Brahman, and everything comes from Brahman, so the Brahman is the source, and everything goes back to Brahman, so to the consciousness. And as we see, this is in accordance with quantum physics, with this hypothetical scenario and many others. Interestingly, similar mentions about God being just the primeval consciousness, the source of everything, and just consciousness, can be found in the Gospel of John, because in it we can read that at the beginning was the Word. And this word, so we've got that at the beginning was the word, but this word in the original Greek version is logos. And logos is often referred to as God, it is often referred to as word, as in this casual translation, but also it is very often translated as reason or thought. So as we see, even in the Gospel of John, we've got the information that at the beginning could be the thought. So consciousness, the observer consciousness, could have a thought that actually the world came to be. It is also in accordance, for instance, with the ancient Egyptian mythology, where also at the beginning was the thought, the consciousness, and also there is a mention of the spoken word. Also in, for example, Hermetica, the Hermetica or Hermeticism is a philosophy derived from ancient Egypt and Greece, where we find mention that everything is mental, that the universe is mental. This is one of the Hermetic laws or the Hermetic principles, and also that everything, our universe and everything beyond us, is just one mind of God or consciousness of God. This is very interesting. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to check out my channel when I speak about very mysterious phenomena and spirituality, ancient mysteries, and many other things. Also, if you are interested in hearing more about consciousness, don't forget to comment below what you're most interested about, because I've been researching this topic a lot. You've got here those books. I've read literally hundreds of books on the topics of ancient cosmologies, etc. So if you're interested, don't forget to check out my channel. Also, don't forget to check out my other books, because I am an author of the book Deja Vu Has Everything Already Been on the Lost Civilizations, but also I am an author of some shorter guides which I mentioned on this channel. That would be all. Thank you, and till the next video. Goodbye.